Hey folks, I'd just like to take a few minutes and do a review of the first ultra premium butterfly knife I've added to my collection. It's a Spectre Evo, designed and manufactured in the US by Hom of Home Designs. I don't want to spend too much time on the technical aspects of the knife. I'm always more interested by what people have to say about performance rather than droning on and on about the dimensions, so I like to focus on that, and I'll put the technical aspects in the description. As far as first impressions, the second you lay eyes on this knife, you know you're in for something special. Aesthetically, it has a commanding and aggressive look and feel. The blade in particular has very distinctive lines that look absolutely amazing. Even for the butterfly knives I've had that I considered top tier, the blade design is kind of standard for the most part. It looks a lot like other manufacturers settle on an optimal design and are kind of phoning it in at this point. That's not at all the case here with this knife. There's a lot of subtle character to this blade, especially with the acid etching and the two-tone. There's something very distinct about it that's, very well distinguished from the other knives that I have in my collection. I absolutely love the coloration of the handles. For anybody who's seen anodized titanium in person, there's nothing quite like it. It's kind of bizarre. The look of it can change dramatically depending on the type of light it's under, with the most color being exposed during direct sunlight. I took a couple of pictures I'm going to include here outside earlier today, so you can get a feel for how dramatically different the handle looks in sunlight, with all the deep purple really shining through. It really gives the knife a look and character all its own and makes it seem almost alive. As far as flipping is concerned, I was blown away from the moment I handled it. Any high-end balisong is usually super smooth, but the Spectre Evo has a very unique movement that is hands down the most solid and progressive I've ever known. Compared against the various knives that I've been using over the past couple of years, namely various Benchmade models, primarily a Benchmade 42 and 42S, the Spectre has by far the smoothest and most fluid range of movement, especially considering the heftier weight of 5 ounces. For any person who is serious about butterfly knife tricks, there's two things about the Spectre Evo that really stand out to me. One is the rounded sides of the handle, and two is the shaping of the base of the blade, particularly the symmetrical parts that jut out on either side. Just to go into why these characteristics are of consequence in a little more detail, when you're doing complex maneuvers that require rapid spinning of the blade with minimal friction, having boxy edges to the handle really impedes your ability to let the knife move freely in your hands. The perfectly rounded edges of the Spectre Evo allow for incredibly smooth movement when you're doing any tricks that require rapid rotation of the handle with a loose hold on the knife. This has been one of my big gripes with other balisongs that I've owned. The sense that I was always overcorrecting for the shape of the handles when doing anything at a rapid pace. The second aspect I mentioned is something I've wanted to see changed in virtually every single butterfly knife that I've ever laid my hands on, yet I've only found with this particular blade. For anybody intimately familiar with various types of butterfly knife maneuvers, a massive number of tricks are centered around a move called the chaplain, which is a basic spinning move around a single finger. Depending on the angle of the blade in relation to the handle, you're going to have more or less contact with the piece of the blade that sticks out at the base of the knife. I've had a few knives over the years where contact with this part of the blade, it was pronounced enough that it prevented me from seamlessly performing many types of tricks. If you note the unique shape and character of this portion of the blade, it makes an incredible difference in your ability to spin the knife with rapid rotations around a central point with absolute control. It feels like it's glued to your finger. The angle of this cut is such that it tucks into the handle at a much wider angle than many other high-end butterfly knives, being more forgiving and giving you more ability to practice and master some complex maneuvers. As far as the couple things that I don't like, there are a few. Like I said, there aren't many, but I should note them for the sake of intellectual honesty. 1. The clasp on the bottom of the knife is free-floating, such that it flops around when not fixed in place. The other main balisong that I've been using has a spring-loaded latch that immediately sets into a firm position when released. I've really grown to like this feature in that knife. The clasp on the Spectre Evo is removable, so it's not really too much of an impediment, but personally, I like having the security of having the clasp available on the knife if I need it, and I like having the spring-loaded clip that completely removes itself from the equation the second the knife is open and ready for use. Secondly, the business side of the blade has no grace area at the base at all. On occasion with other knives, I've accidentally lost my mental orientation of where the blade is while I'm doing tricks. Usually it's when I remove the clasp in both sides, when you're just not paying attention, they can seem identical until you get bit. I've accidentally done a spinning move here and there on the blade side, such that the blade is spinning rapidly around my finger for at least a moment before I realize mistake. Usually this ends up with a bad cut. If you happen to do that with this knife, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to pay for it big. I've had a couple knives over the years that had a longer flat section of the base on the blade side that allowed for a little more versatility and forgivingness when doing inverse tricks. One other quick note, the weight of the knife could be a little bit intimidating if you're used to a lighter, more nimble butterfly knife. If you're doing serious tricks with a severe risk of injury for a misstep, this knife isn't at all forgiving. The blade is super sharp and the weight is meaty enough that if this knife bites you, it's going to bite hard. But if you're used to a heavier knife and all that comes with it, you won't find a more consistent maneuverability and sheer perfection of engineering. This truly is the next level type of balisong. If you're looking for something that's top tier, high end, that will allow you to refine and perfect highly technical moves, this is absolutely the blade for you. If you're a casual flipper just looking for something a little more high end than your buddies to impress and learn some intermediate tricks, expect to get cut and get cut hard. The Hom Spectre Evo is definitely not for the faint of heart. It's a deep step into the upper echelon of design and performance and is built for true masters of the craft. If that's what you're looking for, you're going to find that the moment you open the box and you won't be disappointed.